Morning, kia ora, and thank you, Liz. Look, I'm very conscious of this audience and how different probably our last 3 to 6 months has been in many ways. I'll talk a little bit about who Foodstuffs is and very briefly about the COVID times, but also I guess some of the conclusions about New Zealand and where we are and some of our learnings from 2020, which was best summarised up. I saw a social media post the other day that sort of had a classic social media rating of a hotel-like look, and it gave 2020 a 1 star and said, do not recommend, which is, maybe a sum of how a lot of us would feel. I thought I'd talk a little bit about what we saw in terms of insights and key learnings from operating during lockdown. We were privileged and responsible to do that for the period of level 4 lockdown. What resilient leadership looks like, how we tried to manage customer expectations and what we think going forward, and what role digital innovation in particular played during that time. So that's a little bit of the COVID story, I guess. I guess a number of people on this call will know Foodstuffs, right? We're about 400 retail and wholesale stores in the North Island, about 25,000 in the team, people, and turnover of around $9 billion in retail revenue. So that's, and it's Pack and Save, New World, Foursquare, Liquorland, Gilmore's would be the main brands that people would know us as. And it's a pretty unique New Zealand model in terms of an owner-operator model, with every one of those stores having one single owner, and every one of those owners effectively being a shareholder in the whole of the organisation. So like a lot of people on this call, I've got a very focused group of shareholders who do know the business intimately. So your relationship as CEO and your relationship with the board, which is made up of 8 grocers and 3 independents. It's not an environment where people need to be helped to understand what the day-to-day operations of the business is. Look, when we think about COVID, the first thing I wrote down was a Mike Tyson quote, which was, everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face. And I think we'd all agree 2020 delivered the punch in the face. It was sort of expected because we saw it coming from late 2019. I have a son who works and lives in China. You started to hear his stories. Everyone was starting to talk about it. We came back in January, about the mid of January, and started writing our plan for if it happened, what are the things we would need to do and think about, and it went from there. February the 28th was the big day in New Zealand. So that was the Friday evening the first COVID case diagnosis was announced in country. And within an hour, and I remember it vividly because I was on the deck at home having a beer with one of our store owners that lives in the same street actually, and he called in to have a free one on the way home. And we saw the phone go off saying the news had happened. Then within an hour, we were getting videos and photos from stores, particularly around Auckland, who were being attacked, who were literally being assaulted by customers stripping stock out of the stores. And that began the 4 to 5 weeks that was March. We called that demand overload before we hit lockdown. During that time, roughly 30% more volume shifted through the network. To give you an idea, that moves us to around 2.7, 2.8 million cartons a week being shifted through the supply chain. During lockdown itself, that number went to 50% because of the narrower range of retailers that were available. And we're well over 3 million cartons a week. And a carton, that could be 50 rolls of toilet paper, to give you an idea. There was 2 or 3 days in a row where in the North Island alone, we shipped 15 million rolls of toilet paper through the supply chain and out to stores. God only knows what you did with them. And then various things happened. Flour was a thing. The day the KFC recipe was published, celery salt became the big demand item. Just all these amazing moments during the lockdown period where, essentially we had to turn on its head how we operated. We were getting very high level, very non-specific guidance from government about what they wanted. And then occasionally they would dip right into detail. It's probably the only time in my life I'll spend, at least half an hour every day on the phone to the Minister of Commerce, trying to, get to a point where we could be left to operate our business in the way that we knew we could against the principles. And at the same time dealing with, the 2 goals we started out the plan with were simply, how do we keep our customers and our team safe? COVID was no different a safety and wellbeing risk to a forklift accident, to a thing falling off a shelf. It's the same principle of process. You've got to design your process to manage the safety risk. And it's, the thing we're proudest of in many ways is that we kept 25,000 team members safe and 1 million customers a week safe. No one caught COVID in our stores or in our supply chain or in our operation at all. We managed to deliver some sort of offer most of the time, and did our very best to remind New Zealanders that New Zealand produces about 5 times the food it consumes. So this sort of panic feeling that ran around was really not necessary, but human behaviour. I've got a picture that my wife took of being interviewed on morning TV in a store, trying to do the hashtag shop normal, calm down everybody. And right in the background of the shot at that moment, there's a woman walking past with about 50 rolls of toilet paper in her arms. And it destroyed my moment. It was incredible to watch the sense of duty that team members had during this time. You would catch up with our communities inside our supply chain. A lot of Polynesian, a lot of Asian, a lot of mixed culture, and they all had this massive sense of our families don't want us to work, but we know New Zealand needs us to do this job. And it was quite, it was very humbling and very affecting to see how people felt about that. One of the things that came to us pretty quick, we had the lockdown moment where, it came to us basically the rules were going to be that sort of only supermarkets and things sort of directly related around that would be open and operating. And this concept of essential worker came out, and the impact on many, many businesses have been closed for nearly 5 weeks hit. And it was a time where in many ways we were just so damn busy keeping up and operating and trying to keep up with the changing environment and the rules. I remember that one pager that was the COVID alert level guideline. The very first version of that had 2 bullet points per alert level. The last version is down to about a 6-point font because it's so detailed and populated. So all of the way through that, there were many things going on. One of the early things we did in alert level 4, once it calmed a little bit and we could think, was we wrote ourselves a series of commitments that was sort of our principles of how we would operate. And they covered everything from first job was keep everyone safe and deliver the health outcome that was the strategy for the country. Secondly, it was deliver an offer to customers that respected that we were the only people opening, that we needed to be fair on price, that we were being held to account on that. And for example, I knew every week what a basket of goods cost in January, February, March, April, May, June, and that it moved less than 1% during that whole time. And that was one of the things. Making sure all of our stores survived. We've got a decent balance sheet. We've been around 98 years. We needed to support particularly our metro stores that were really hurt by the fact the CBDs had emptied out. And making sure we evolved our offer for the future to whatever New Zealand is going to become post all of this. They were really important because as decisions came at you, you had no time to analyse or write a business case. You just had to go to your principals and make a call. We were running, communications was an essential part of managing the situation. We're running a call for all of our store owners at 9 a.m. every morning. We had over 400 people on that call every day for about 8 to 9 weeks. And, it was what's changed in the last 24 hours, what's going on, what are the rules, what's the check-in, time for questions. And you had days where the same question that had been answered for the 5 days previously got asked again. But it was a massive part of the well-being part of the owners under a huge amount of pressure that they got the ability to check in, a sort of safe place to ask any question they needed to, and an ability to make sure that they were on the right track in a fast-moving, fast-changing environment. So I'll talk a little bit more about communication, but it was such a critical part of managing this situation. We had 2 strategic cause going into this. One was becoming one of the most customer-driven retailers in the world. And essentially that is a complete re-engineering of this business from supplier and promotional-driven ranging to customer and data insight-driven ranging and retailing. Sounds simple when you say it like that, but that is picking up almost every daily decision and operation that's made in every shelf and every bay and every category and turning on its head using data and insight that we've never had available to us before. The second one is becoming more efficient every day because we knew coming in, our ability to compete more and more on price was going to be driven by how we manage the cost of our business. There's nothing about either of those 2 strategies that is wrong post-COVID. In fact, you'd argue New Zealand needs those 2 things more than ever. So they're the right strategies. The order of some things changed and the pace of some things changed, but the strategy did not get changed by it. Some things we learned on the way through. We're simply a people-powered organisation. And, you know, as a cooperative competing against a corporate, you saw some really interesting things show up. Like, as demand got out of control, the way the corporate competitor we have managed it was they made rules. Like, we don't open our stores till 9 a.m, we close them at 8 p.m, because then it gives us more time to replenish the stores. Our owners went, I think I can give my customers more time, so I can open at 7, I can stay open till 10, I can rejig shifts, I can work through the night, I can do whatever. And they basically read their community and fought for it, and did that thing of not just knowing their product and their hierarchy, but actually knowing their community and what they needed most from them, and reacted to it. So knowing your customer base was critical. Being customer and purpose driven, so making sure every decision we made was driven by a principle of how do we be more loyal to customers at this time. And, you know, things like at one point in supply chain, the only way we could survive and keep up was we narrowed the range to 1/3 of its normal availability out of our supply chain, and just shipped whole cartons or whole pallets, so that we got the most of the essential stock to every store, rather than the biggest store place the biggest order getting everything they wanted. So we tried to almost take quite a even approach, that every community got the essentials first, then followed by you know, everything else that we could offer. And then strategy focus, saying on a longer term strategy rather than being sucked into the every day to day, because that was what was best led at the store. When I look at, you know, one simple definition of leadership for me that tried to work to, and it does work during a time like this, was connection, clarity, and action. So connection was the daily calls. Connection was all the time thinking about what have we done to connect with suppliers today? What have we done to connect with our business? What have we done to connect with government? And what messages are we giving customers? It was a checklist we ran every day, so that you were, you know, at worst 24 hours out of sync with what was going on. One of the things we put in place during COVID was a weekly customer panel of 1,000 customers, and just kept checking in on how they trusted what we were doing in terms of keeping them safe, and how they felt about the offer that was on shelf. You know, so that was really critical. Clarity. But one of the big lessons we learned on the way through was, if you didn't know the answer, don't make shit up. And we got into a very good habit of going, particularly in a co-op where you don't have hierarchical command structures, you basically have to influence with excellence. So if what you have to offer is good, and it'll be adopted and implemented really, really strongly. If it's not, it'll be pushed back. So the way we'd sort of cycle every 24 hours would be, here's a new thing, we do know all the answers, here's what's required, or here is what's recommended, and that language was really important. Required meant people knew, don't debate, don't ask questions, just get it done. Recommended meant sit down with your leadership team in your store and work it out. We described the outcome we needed and the principles that we were operating to, and then leaders in every part of the business did their job and did it well. So that was really important. The other thing is, if you didn't know the answer, you just say, I don't know, we will come back in 24 hours. And people appreciated that much more than being given one answer than a different answer the next day. So when you're operating at that pace, that clarity was really important. And then action was simple. You'd make commitments, make a date and a name, and then make sure you got back to that date and name. And then people's sense of panic and lack of confidence in the situation really improved, because they saw things happening when you said they would happen, and continued to all of the time. You know, I think 3 things that always are on my mind for New Zealand small and medium enterprises and businesses right now. One is how well, you know, we really know our market and our customer, not just our products. You know, even in our business, which is a collection of 400 small businesses when we think about it, or small and medium, you know, knowing your market and knowing your customers is key. Still, when I go into our stores today and ask, how are you going? The first answer I get is, this is how much up revenue I am this week on the week a year ago. Where I need to move that conversation to is, my customers are coming back, they're doing this, they're doing that. I know the catchment is growing at X and I'm growing at Y, which means I'm winning or losing market share. It's that, you know, customer orientated rather than product or revenue orientated answer. The second one is having the right level of structure and process for the stage of the business. And constantly checking in on, are we under or over structured for this point in time? And the third one is, who's challenging me from a governance or advisory point of view, so that I'm not doing single think. And there are three questions I'd ask any one of our stores. And some of our stores, you know, are $150 million a year businesses, and some are $10 million a year businesses. The questions actually don't change a lot. In terms of customers and look where we see New Zealanders are at right now, look, in order, number one is value. You know, value is really important. And, you know, we all know the numbers around how many people are coming off some level of government support in September. It is generally held there is going to be a different economic environment and different spending environment when that comes. What we've seen in the last 4 weeks for the first time is our value or price-focused customers have for the first time started lowering volume or the number of products they're buying week on week. And that's a very early sign of pressure. What we're also seeing is our premium customers increasing the volume or units of product they're buying in our stores because they're coming out of restaurant, out of dining out of going to Fiji and Gold Coast and all those experiences and bringing their experiences back home. So in a number of, you know, we're a bellwether in many ways for that human behaviour. So what we're seeing is people are saying, well, I'm domestically travelling and domestically holidaying or domestically entertaining and enjoying, you know, what am I participating in terms of categories? The second thing we're seeing is a permanent uplift in health and wellbeing, in cleaning and hygiene, in treats and you call it entertainment, and in meals solution, or the two big human trends are FOGO, fear of going out, which is still present. And a new one I've learned is fake aways, which is the takeaway experience at home for about half the cost and slightly healthier for you. So people are looking to recreate all of those things and driving it at the moment. So value matters a lot. One of the simple things that we're doing in a lot of stores is each pricing. So by that I mean quite often you'll walk up to a butchery cabinet or a fish cabinet, everything's per 100 grams or per kilo. And in times where value focus is hard, people need to look at something and go, are those steaks half a kilo, 3/4 or a kilo? I have no physical way of looking at a steak and telling you. Whereas if they're priced saying they're $6, $7, $8 each, then I can look at them and go, okay, a couple of steaks, I can afford that, that's a good dinner. Really simple thing, but the level of trust and level of predictability in pricing really matters right now. So I don't think it matters what category and industry you're in. I think that in value-focused times, really make it very simple for someone to go, okay, I can afford that, that fits within my world. Because the worst customer moment is you get it weighed up and then you go, sorry, I can't afford all that. And, you know, can you put some back? So, you know, just little things like that match to the big trends. People are planning and shopping less. So during COVID, we learned to only go to the supermarket every 7 to 10 days. Used to be 2.5 times a week. It's probably settled back somewhere between 1.5 and 2. People are visiting less often and shopping bigger. So we're seeing number of visits down, basket sizes up. People are wanting seamless phygital experiences. So phygital's a word. Look it up in urbandictionary.com. It's the mix of physical and digital experience. So they want to be able to plan their shop on an app, have the app sort by aisle, be able to click and collect, deliver or physically shop and get some sort of reporting back on the shop. There's a belief that we hold that something like 6 or 7 apps occupy 80% of our time on our smart devices. If you're not one of the 6 or 7, you're going to be on the 2nd, 3rd or 4th page of the phone and maybe less relevant. So it's just, you know, that's how we're thinking about that. And the biggest worries for New Zealanders right now, look, top of the list, economy, finances, health, job security. They're all the big worries right now. Look, what are we encouraging our SMEs to think about? The first one is identifying pressure points and weaknesses and plan for the worst. So, you know, I've said to all of the, I've been in 20, 25 stores in the last 3 weeks. Every one of those owners I've said to them, by the way, what does your plan look like for September if your current growth goes to -5? I'm not wanting you to panic. I'm not wanting you to upset. I need you to have a plan because the only thing that is wrong is that you don't have that plan. You know, it's fascinating the number of owners I spoke to that were starting to put cash aside in 2019 because they were starting to hear about this moment and what they might need to do. Being agile really matters. You know, so many times during lockdown and during that unique trading period, we had to make decisions within minutes and hours without the available information. And I remember being at Stanford in 2014 and one of the professors said, make all your decisions between 40% and 70% of available information. So 0 to 40, probably not enough. 70 plus, you're being too fussy. and time might exceed the power of decision making. One of the things I keep reminding all our leaders is you'll probably never know whether the other decision was better. So don't sweat it too much. Make it, get behind it, drive it. Focusing on the basics and essentials that make your business excellent. Look, on the end of the day, on-shelf availability for us of the products that customers need at the price they value, that's what we do. So come back to those things because that's where most of your growth and most of your loyalty will come from. This is a great time to focus on being leaner. So stop doing anything that doesn't add to the excellence and be brutal about it. This is, call it the cover of COVID in some ways, but, use the moment to go, okay, the things that I know are right to do about making my business leaner or giving me the ability to invest in the things that really matter. Now's the time. Don't miss the crisis. Use it well. Don't be an island. That's one of the things. And our lockdown was different to businesses that weren't open, although, one of our brands, Liquorland, was locked down. It was not open during the time. The funniest day was the day before lockdown when, Liquorland sells wine, spirits and beers, 800% up year on year on the day before lockdown. Put your hand up if you bought 3 bottles of gin, Liz. And the first day open again, which was only click and collect, so it was online or telephone ordering, 1,800% up. So put your hand up if you drunk everything in the cupboard and desperately needed supplies. So, it was fascinating to watch some of the, when you talk about it, you go, actually, that makes sense. That's absolutely what I thought people would do. Real focus on culture right now. The thing we're noticing most about people's mindset is people are amazing during COVID. Sense of duty. We were very lucky our tech supported a complete empty of 900 people out of the office straight to home working productively immediately. Most people were okay, but some weren't during lockdown, and the processes and systems to check in are really important. Coming back to work's been fascinating because we've been pretty, I don't know if lucky is the right word, but 70 or 80% of people back in the office straight away. And it's fascinating talking to people. For those of us that might have good space at home to work, where it's actually quite comfortable and quite enjoyable to do so, that's one experience. If you're 25, you flat with 4 others and your study is your bedroom, and yes, you don't like your flatmates that much, getting back to the office was brilliant. So not everyone had the same experience. I've said to a few groups, my view of the heroes of lockdown were people with kids under 10, because my God, just saw it all the time in terms of the pressure that put on people. What's interesting now as you go from the adrenaline rush of COVID and all of that activity to a reset moment to now trying to get back to driving the business every day for customers normally and finding the energy and the focus to do that again without the adrenaline of COVID. And I think that's it's a tricky and difficult moment and something to really watch out for. And the grind of the times we're in is now there. So, there are things to focus on in there. Look, digital, just a side conversation on digital. We had to 4 to 5 times increase our online shopping capability. The digital stuff worked brilliantly. It could have gone to 10 times. The issue for us was the physical pick and store. Basically we were putting groups in at midnight into stores while in Pack and Save's forklifts are running around, and while in New Worlds you've got people dumping boxes in the aisles and replenishing the shelves and picking orders for customers. It was full on. We put in place inside a week a thing called a digital queue, so the ability for a customer to turn up at a store, text that they were there, be told it's a 45-minute wait to get in, go and wait in your car comfortably, or some actually learned, hey, I'll text before I leave home and then I'll time my trip to the store. That went in a week. Normally we would have business case that for 9 months and worried and walked in small circles. So real lessons there. My observation of trying to deal with many companies online during lockdown and not long after is, man, is it worrying how many of the basics still aren't there. So, how many companies still don't basically have their offers, their products and their prices available on a simple web search? How many companies you can't engage with online and make something happen? And how many never respond to the inquiry form? And so one question I'd ask any business owner on this call is, do you know what your presence look like? Do you know how customers can engage with you that way? And do you know where your inquiry form goes and how that's being prioritized to respond to in your business? You know, and it's just simple stuff. I got a new garage door sorted during lockdown. The fourth supplier got the business because the first three just, you know, there was no way of engaging and no reply to any general consent, inquiry form. You know, and that's, you just sort of look at it and go, come on, you know, we've got to be better than that. We're seeing online food shopping, which is probably the most reluctant online category because people like the personal experience, doubled and will probably triple and quadruple pretty quickly. So you're talking about heading towards 10% in New Zealand online. That is a decent part of our business. That's as big as the produce department in every store, the liquor department in every store. That's how big that is. Roughly for us heading towards $1 billion business. It's really important. Researching, finding products, building shopping lists, the whole end-to-end experience is all part of it. And a big focus right now is frictionless shopping. So we have learnt to wash our hands and we've learned to think more about what we're touching and how we're doing stuff. And that's all changing the go forward. The last, just some summary points and some things that I thought I'd wrap up with. I think as New Zealanders, we're very good at crisis. We've unfortunately had a few, right, back to Christchurch earthquakes. We've had other earthquake moments. We've had the tragedy in Christchurch with the mosque. And we've had this event now, which regardless of your politics and your beliefs and all of that stuff, you'd have to say in hindsight, the strategy to lock down quickly and hard has looked like it might have been relatively smart. However, the strategy to rebuild business and to get going is now critical. What you do see show up in terms of leadership behavior during these sort of crises is three things. Accountability. So people stop messing with each other and stop trying to do each other's jobs and just say, I'll do that, I'll get it done by this date and this is the result I'll get. And they let other people take accountability. The second thing you see really improve is collaboration. People don't mess with each other's patches, they do their bit and support others to do their bit because there's a higher purpose. And the last one is innovation. People can make stuff happen that otherwise would have taken lots of time and lots of risk management. So accountability, collaboration, and innovation show up in a crisis. We're really trying to focus in the businesses here around, did you see it? How could you make it permanent? Because they're great behaviors to have every day. Action is better than inaction. Make the decision, you won't regret it. Emphasizing the positive, particularly during a crisis. We're quite relentless during a crisis and we forget to go, hey, great job. Hey, just really want to recognize what you did. Hey, I know you pulled a 14-hour day to pull all that stuff off. Hope you're going to have a couple of hours out. So all of those things really matter. Being a leader doesn't mean you have to know all the answers. It means you have to get the answers. I just keep thinking about the job in leadership is conduct the orchestra. You can't play every damn instrument. And getting the best out of people is what we need to be great at as leaders during this time. It also helps your resilience because if you put the personal pressure on yourself to have the answer to everything, good luck. That's going to destroy you. So, getting the answer to everything is critical. And connectivity really matters. It sounds inhumane and process driven, but I just had a simple checklist of all of my direct leadership team. And I wrote down the last date and time I'd spoken to them one-on-one. And you just kept looking and going, oh, it's been 3 or 4 days. Just give them a call and go, what's up? Sometimes that freaks people out because they go, what's wrong? But it was just checking in and just saying hello. One of the things I think we'd all reflect on is during lockdown, we Zoomed our families. Never did that before. And I wonder how many of us are still doing it. Yet it became a thing. That personal connectivity is really important. And the last thing, and it was what one of our directors who runs one of our stores said to me, he said, the great thing was you guys described the outcome you needed. You told us the principles or the guardrails or the rules that we had to operate within and left us to lead and get on with it. That actually can work all the time anywhere in any business.